will not be standing today. I took a significant tumble and hurt my back and my head. So anyway, I'm going to ask the rest of you to stand, and we will begin with the Three Refuges. And we say together, I go for refuge to Buddha, my deeply awakened mind, the living source of understanding and compassion, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to Dharma, the path of mindful living, leading to healing, joy, and enlightenment, the way of peace, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to the Sangha, the loving and supportive community of practice, realizing harmony, awareness, and liberation, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I am aware that the three jewels are within my heart. I vow to realize them. I vow to understand living beings and their suffering. I vow to cultivate loving kindness and compassion and to practice joy and equanimity. I vow to live simply and sanely, content with few possessions, and to keep my body healthy. I vow to let go of worry and anxiety in order to be light and free. I am aware that I owe so much to my parents, teachers, friends, and all beings. I vow to be worthy of their trust, to practice wholeheartedly, so that understanding and compassion will flower, and I can help living beings be free from their suffering. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. And we bow. Now, if you will turn to the Heart Sutra. The Mahaprajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra. The Bodhisattva of great compassion, from the deep practice of prajna paramita, perceived the emptiness of all five skandhas and delivered all beings from their suffering. O Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form. Form is emptiness, emptiness form. The same is true of feeling, thought, impulse, and consciousness. O Shariputra, all dharmas are empty. They are not born nor annihilated. They are not defiled nor immaculate. They do not increase nor decrease. So in emptiness, no form, no feeling, no thought, consciousness. No eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. No form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or objects of mind. No realm of sight, no realm of consciousness. No ignorance, nor extinction of ignorance. No old age and death, nor extinction of them. No cause of suffering, no cause of suffering, no cease from suffering, no path to lead out of suffering, no knowledge, no attainment, no realization, for there is nothing to attain. The Bodhisattva holds on to nothing but prajna paramita. Therefore the mind is clear of any delusive hindrance. Without hindrance there is no fear. Away from all perverted views, one reaches final nirvana. All Buddhas of past, present, and future, through faith in prajna paramita, attain to the highest perfect enlightenment. Know then the prajna paramita is the great Dharani, the radiant peerless mantram, the utmost supreme mantram, which is capable of allaying all pain. This is true beyond all doubt. Proclaim now the highest wisdom, the prajna paramita. Gate, gate, para gate, para samgate, bodhisvaha. Gate, gate, para samgate, bodhisvaha. Gate, gate, para samgate, bodhisvaha. The Maha Prajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra. And we bow. You may be seated. I'd like to welcome to our Sangha Erica. Erica, would you just tell us a little bit about you?
I'm new to the area. I'm looking for some uplifting enlightenment, and so I hope to find it here.
Welcome. We're glad to have you here. Today, our Dharma talk will be given by our Dharma teacher, Dr. Reverend Arya Vinaya Su Lachni. And he was ordained as a Dharma teacher about a year ago, over a year ago now. And if you watched the Saturday short that I put out yesterday morning, it explained what he will be doing, but I will allow him to explain that to you and proceed with his Dharma talk. Welcome, Arya Vinaya.
Thank you. Being a college teacher, a elementary special education teacher, and a school psychologist, I can't go by this morning without giving you handouts. So all of you are gonna get a handout, and maybe you could, there should be enough for everyone. This morning's topic we'll be discussing affects all of us. As Amko shared with us this morning, his injury, how that injury has changed his life from that moment. And we all try to practice learning ways to compensate for those injuries, but we can't deny them. So the handout that you have, the 5 remembrances, transferring the fears within us. And I'll be the first one to admit, now being 76 years of age, I think about death every day. Illness, old age, loss, and death. Events in our life that all sentient beings experience. From growing older through death, they are simple and true facts that we humans are reluctant to face. These facts, however, get lost in our mind because of our busyness in today's society, but more important, we deny and fear the finality of our own personal consciousness and our material body. Illness, old age, loss, and death are realities that we all will confront. During my 76 years, I've experienced the death of personal friends. The first one when I was about 8 years old. And my friend, we were riding on our bicycles on a paved road leading to a missile site in northern Indiana to watch them raise the missiles. This was during the Cold War with Russia. The Army practiced every day with missiles, raising them as if we were going to be attacked by Russia. On the way back, riding our bikes, one of the soldiers, anxious to get to his, this happened to be on a Saturday events, struck my other friend, and he died on the scene. According to the Buddha, human suffering is caused by the attitude of attachment, clinging, permanence, and dependent arising. These terms are discussed during our different Dharma conversations. Our attachment to material possessions, people, and ultimately life renders us fearful to be separated from them. We're all attached to things. If you take a few moments and think of the things that you're attached to, those daily things that you say, I cannot live without this. I need this. I want this. When we are fearful of losing those objects or attachments, we try to keep them permanently as they are and resist change. Dependent arising and the resistance to change are a reality. All things constantly change. I am different now than I am a second ago when I first came into this room. We experienced that change. Unfortunately, human beings are not comfortable with change. We like to predict our future. We like to predict what we're having for dinner this Sunday afternoon. We like to look at the weather to see what tomorrow is going to bring. But that second, that moment, we can't read into the future. If you watch the weather, you find that's true from the weather reports. Objects get lost and break, and people we know and love grow, age, and ultimately die, and so do we. We fear, if not terrified, to confront this reality. So we prepare to avoid it. We prefer to ignore it and keep living as if we were immortal. However, It is a fact that these fears are conditions that we take break from this mental state of anxiety, of fear. We will not allow ourselves the happiness that we so deserve. The Buddha, however, provides a prescription for this human dilemma. The 5 remembrances, the foundation of Buddha's teachings. They are decisively simple and obvious. They are not philosophical, but a description of how we live our life. How life is, what it is to be human in everyday life. The goal for us is not to agree with these observational statements, but to find a way to integrate them into our emotional landscape, not as facts, but as convictions, virtues, to make them a reality, make them a positive mind state that influences how we choose to live our life in each moment of our precious being. The 5 remembrances, as the Buddha wrote, and these are interpretations. In your packet, you have the original that was interpreted. And I won't go through that, okay, but it's in there. As well as some interpretations of that. And because that was written so long ago, we have to interpret what the Buddha meant. And what the Buddha meant then, 2,600 years ago, is different now. It's not the same. I am in the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape growing old. I am the nature to have ill health. There is no way to escape ill health. I am the nature to die. There is no way to escape death. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature to change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. My actions are my only true belongings. I cannot escape the consequences of those, my actions. My actions are the ground upon which I stand. Having been here for 46 years on this earth, I've had a lot of inappropriate actions. Okay. I've said, as I did last week at this meeting, inappropriate things. Okay. But I talk my heart, I live my heart, and I walk my heart. It has not been easy. It's difficult. The old Morgan Latchney, or as my friends called me back then, Butch, comes out in me every so often. In my driving, okay, in my politics, and in my religious beliefs. I don't consider myself a religious person. I feel that I am a human being and I'm doing the best I can do. And when I am gone, when I am deceased, my presence, my essence of who I am will continue in my children and how they think of me and their DNA. And as you sit here this morning, remembering this Dharma discussion, the 5 remembrances are 5 truths that the Buddha taught, contemplated, and accepted. He told his disciples that reflecting on these 5 truths causes the factors of the Eightfold Path to take birth. And from this, the mental chain or bond that binds all sentient beings in the cycle of life of pain, suffering, are abandoned and obsessions destroyed. The Buddha spoke in several of his sutras of this body within the body. What he meant was the body as it really exists, not the imagination, not our imagination we have of it, but of the body as it is right now. the sensations evident to us as we sit here today. Let me provide a concrete example, for that is less whimsical, of the past patient I had in my private practice. One morning, a patient who I was counseling came for her panic attacks that she had had that morning. She had called, stated that it was extremely important, so I met her earlier before my normal schedule. She told me she had been experiencing a great deal of sleeplessness, sadness, anxiety, and fear about growing older. I asked her to be more specific. What, not why, but what was she experiencing physically and emotionally during those moments? She said that morning she had awakened with some stiffness and pain in her back and knees. She had been a runner for many years, trying to stay in good physical shape to prolong her life, but the pain was becoming overwhelming. In her mind's eye, she often pictured her grandmother or some other elderly relative who experienced the same pain in the mornings. Then, without a warning, within seconds, suddenly this relatively young woman in her mid-50s was old age in her mind's eye. Within seconds, she saw and felt herself experiencing pain, a stiff body. She couldn't straighten up her back. She saw herself with white hair, wrinkled skin, the loss of attractiveness, a cane, then a walker, and finally a wheelchair. She saw her body deteriorating, her mind starting to go, her final years being full of illness and pain. Furthermore, she was extremely anxious that she had not put enough money away for retirement. So she imagined herself in destitution, an old woman needing special care, but unable to afford the cost. She saw herself on the street, wrapped in rags, an old overcoat, and shivering, asking for money. In reality, as I said, she was a 50-year-old woman, attractive, professional, living in a perfectly comfortable house. But as far as her suffering went, she might as well have been out on the street. Such is the power of the mind. The mind can take a simple, unpleasant situation and turn it into a powerful sense of self. We have all experienced such flights of fantasy, sudden feelings of fear, sadness, and anxiety. I'll be the first to admit that these concerns conceal, though, a wisdom. Old age, sickness, and health are the fate of us all. So in a way, she was seeing something that was real. Furthermore, she needed to provide for her old age, and a real concrete fact was that she needed to do that now. Being in 50, she was fearful that she would not have the opportunity or enough money to provide her with comfort in her old years. Sometimes we exaggerate the exaggerated in anxiety because it is some real truth that needs to be attended to at some time. My patient was a classic case of a process that the Buddha talked about quite elegantly, the way the mind turns mental and physical sensations into suffering. This is an excellent example for us to discuss this morning. So I'd like to take just a few minutes to discuss this situation. Our karma, our worldview, lifestyle, and self-concept are a phenomenon of the mind created through thoughts, what the Buddha referred to as mind states. Mind states are more complicated than sensations. They typically combine the racing mind, creating anxiety by pulling up thoughts, like my patient's thoughts about aging, as we just discussed, with notable sensations in the body. Our mind drifts to, if not obsessed with, those mind states. There are many mind states, but three that the Buddha emphasized repeatedly in his teachings, referred to as the three mental poisons: greed, hatred, and delusion, sometimes referred to as passion, aversion, and confusion. Greed feeling of wanting something we don't have. Hatred is the feeling of wanting something to be gone that we do have. And delusion is when we don't want what we want or see clearly that is present. There is a fog over the mind, and we do not think clearly. In Buddhism, these are referred to as kleshas that are rooted in delusion and ignorance. Ignorance and fear are the basis of our craving and aversion. So you could say that the source of my patient's problems was delusions concretely manifesting itself as aversion. Something was present that she did not want there to be. She woke up in her pain, her mind began to struggle with fear, and her mind states proliferated. These are pains and difficulties that we simply all have, a part of being human, and many of them are linked to larger realities. The larger realities are aging, sickness, and death. The Buddha never claimed that we could avoid them. There are pains and difficulties, emotional and physical, that the Buddha never claimed we could avoid. Now, when we look at this, we may think, how depressing. What a negative view of life. However, Thich Nhat Hanh wrote in his book, Understanding Our Mind, that we should not suppress knowledge of our frailty and impermanence. These are the fears that lie in the depths of our consciousness. And to be free of these fears, we must invite remembrances into the conscious and stop experiencing them as enemies. Let's look at old age, sickness, and death. You'll realize that these first three remembrances are events witnessed by the Buddha-to-be, Prince Siddhartha, before he began his quest to realize enlightenment. The denial of old age, sickness, and death, is more prevalent now than it's been in Buddhist times. Our 21st century culture actively promotes the idea that we can stay young, healthy forever, and we try hard to do that. This accounts for the many food fads, raw food diets, alkaline diets, cleansing diets, etc., etc. I've known people who became obsessed with the idea that foods have to be eaten in a certain particular order to release the nutrients to them. There's an almost frantic search for some ideal combination of foods and supplements that will keep us healthy forever. When we look at the commercials on television regarding our physical appearance, there are many ads correcting how we can correct those wrinkles, how we can change our appearance. That's the body within the body discussion that the Buddha talked about. Taking care of one's health is an excellent practice, but not a foolproof shield from illness, and definitely not a foolproof shield from death. The effects of age strike us all if we live long enough. This is hard to believe if you're young, but a young person is not who we are. Due to impermanence, it's just a temporary condition. We also are more separated from death than we used to be by being our elderly being tucked, or those people who are dying being tucked away in hospitals, nursing homes, assisted living, so we don't have to see them. Dying is still real, however. Losing who and what we love. There's a quote attributed to a Buddhist teacher, the glass is already broken. There's a variation in Zen, the cup holding your tea is already broken. This is a reminder to not become attached to impermanent things. All things are impermanent. To say that we must not attach doesn't mean we don't love and appreciate people and things. It means do not cling to them. Indeed, to appreciate impermanence makes us realize the preciousness of people and the world around us. Our own actions. Thich Nhat Hanh's words regarding the Buddha's last remembrances My actions are my only true belongings. I cannot escape the consequences of my actions. My actions are the ground upon which I stand. There is an excellent expression of karma. My actions are the ground upon which I stand is another way to say that my life right now is the result of my own actions and choices. This is karma. I would say to my clients, remember, karma is a verb. It's our unique way of thinking, feeling, and acting that serves as a guiding line for our path, for our future, for our life. This is karma. Taking responsibility of our own karma and not blaming others for our problems is an important step in one's spiritual maturity. Transforming the seeds of suffering. Thich Nhat Hanh recommends mindfulness to learn to recognize our fears and acknowledge them. Our afflictions, our unwholesome mental formations must be accepted before they can be transformed. He wrote, the more we fight them, the stronger they become. When we contemplate the 5 remembrances, we are inviting our repressed fears to come into the daylight, Thich Nhat Hanh said. When we shine the light of mindfulness upon them, our fears lessen, and one day will be completely transformed. When we contemplate the 5 remembrances, we are inviting our repressed fears in our mind to come to light of day. Alfred Adler, an Australian medical doctor, psychotherapist, and founder of the School of Individual Psychology, is the training I went through beyond my doctorate. He was the first, in my mind, social psychologist. Alfred Adler suffered from rickets. So he had, throughout his life, he suffered the pain from rickets. Fortunately, I had the opportunity to study under Harold Mozak, who was a student of Rudolf Dreikurs. Rudolf Dreikurs was a student of Alfred Adler. So there was a heritage there that was handed down. Alfred Adler said, meanings are not determined by situations. We determine ourselves by the meanings we ascribe to situations. In conclusion, the 5 remembrances teach us the following realities. Attachment leads to suffering because it is founded on the illusion of permanence, and life is impermanent. The 5 remembrances remind us of the reality of living, which we forget because convictions push us to see happiness as an external thing. The liberation from the illusion of attachment is in itself happiness. Happiness is found in our own attitude toward the world, ourselves, and life. At this moment, I'd like to do a short meditation from the 5 remembrances. So just be comfortable, you can shut your eyes, leave them open. Breathing in, I am aware of my aging and becoming old. Breathing out, I give thanks for this calm breath. Breathing in, I'm aware that ill health is unavoidable. Breathing out, gratitude for this moment deepens. Breathing in, I am aware that all sentient beings will die. Breathing out, I marvel at life's impermanence. Breathing in, I acknowledge separation and change. Breathing out, I cherish this fleeting moment. Breathing in, I stand accountable for my actions. Breathing out, I see how my actions shape my life. Open your eyes whenever you feel ready. I'd like to thank you for this moment in my life. And I left some time, I hope, for questions and answers, but I need to sit down at this point.
Okay.
If you have a question, we have a microphone, so I will pass the microphone around. I've got one here.
Someone's best.
closer so I can hear you.
Thank you. I don't know if I have a specific question, but I saw you brought, Punish the Drone's new book, and I was fascinated when that came out recently. I haven't read it yet, because my first week as a hospice nurse, I heard a nurse say that expression.
Yes.
And I came to learn in nursing terms that quite often when we saw people suffer at the end of life, it was very consistent with how they lived their life. They fought things, they held on to resentments, they were stubborn. Sometimes it didn't matter what medicine they had or didn't have, they had things to come to peace with first. But I also learned that that could happen even up until the end. And reading this week in our Bodhisattva training, it talks about we can do things right now that will make that time easier if we acknowledge our misdeeds and address them. So I think your talk just kind of ties into those readings right now and reinforces that we don't have to be afraid. And the more we come to terms with that now, the less scary it is. And that we have the chance each moment to make decisions that make that our path easier and that journey easier. So I wanna thank you for the lesson. It's really meaningful.
Thank you.
Oops, back there.
I may just address that for a moment. We have an opportunity, and this was an excellent comment, excellent statement. And we have an opportunity each day. We are not fixed. We are not made in concrete. We have opportunities within our mind to develop new memory tracks, links within the brain, creating new cells. Now, this process is not easy. That's why when you start to meditate, you're beginning meditation. Your brain is going to pick up many different thoughts, and that's okay. The training takes months to become, you feel comfortable with meditation. And I always encourage people that don't give up on that, to stay with it. And it will happen. Just be patient. That's one of my problems in life, is that I'm not patient. I want it, and I want it now, and that comes from the way I grew up. You know, parents didn't have much money, so when we got something, Christmas time comes, I want that to be now. I want that to happen now. Also, unpleasant things that happen in our life. I still struggle with those things daily, particularly my experiences in the military. I still experience those thoughts daily, but I don't cling to them. Oh yeah, they're there. So what am I feeling? What am I feeling inside? What's happening in here? A little rapid heartbeat, my inhalations and exhalations rise, but I have to move on. I realize it's there, I sit with it, and let it dissipate, let it disappear. And with your comment, my dad, I think I've shared with some of you here, was an atheist. He didn't believe at all in God. His mother died when he was 4, my grandfather was in a federal penitentiary, and my dad was alone and was shuffled around to different relatives. But I was with him the day he died. He held that conviction, that virtue with him. A minister came in and said, Mr. Latchney, will you pray with me? And my dad's, thank you, but no thank you. And the minister left. He lived those convictions, his belief, through his death. And I believe, as you were saying, it made life easier for him. It made his life easier when he went into knowing he was gonna die. I took a photo of him and my mother 2 weeks before he died in their backyard in a little southern town in Indiana. And I looked at that photo this morning when I was getting ready here. I could see the pain in his eye. in his facial expressions. And he's hugging my mom, and I could see that in her, because he knew. With 2 weeks, the doctor said you have about 2 weeks. That these 2 weeks would be the last moments. And that was the last picture, the photo I have of my dad. We all experience those times, those episodes in our life. But remembering the 5 remembrances, that impermanence, change. There was another question?
No, you can have them today.
Thank you for pointing out the books. I have had 4 classes with Perma, and she's an excellent teacher. She is elderly, and she amazes me. Her memory, the ability to get around. She presents at conferences, and this is an excellent book, by the way. I have a book discussion with one of my Buddha buddies, and we meet periodically and talk about particularly Pima's book. Fear, the Essential Wisdom for Getting Through Storms by Thich Nhat Hanh is an excellent book as well. Living in the Light of Death, Larry Rosenberg. I have found this book very, I just go through it and reread it, very helpful in going through what it means to be alive, not what it means to die, to grow old. When you come to those stages, that's what this book talks about, not becoming attached to your death. Without your parents' death, they wouldn't have been here, because they wouldn't have been born. You wouldn't be here today. Dependence arising is what we're talking about. And this last one, I happened just to stumble on some of the books that I bring in. I didn't bring this one in. I found this one, Waves into the Water, reflecting on the 5 remembrances. I'm keeping this one. Other questions? Well, again, thank you for your presence here this morning. If Amco or I can help you in any way with any of these life transitions, we're always available to you. And then once again, thank you for being here.
Thank you,
You're welcome.
Ivan. Very helpful. We will close with the closing Gathas. And after we close, if we could get some help putting things away, that would be wonderful. Also, that box of books in the back is still there. That's our lending library. The magazines are free. Just take them, have them, enjoy them. If you want to bring them back, you can. If you don't, that's fine. For all unskillful actions ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thoughts, now I atone for them all. Vast is the robe of compassion, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Buddha's teachings for the benefit of all sentient beings. All beings, one body, I vow to liberate. Endless blind passion, I vow to uproot. Dharma gates without number, I vow to penetrate. The great way of Buddha, I vow to attain. And we bow. Thank you for being here today, and we will see you hopefully next week.
Thank you.